Good evening and welcome back to Fear Meets Brie. We are on episode 37 today. I made the thumbnail before I made the episode, and then I just checked YouTube and was like, okay, it is episode 37. Because after I got it all set up, I realized I forgot to check. So we are in episode 37. Today we're going to be talking about some Trump stuff involving the January 6th crap. We're going to be talking about California's SB14 Senate bill and how they decided not to pass it and further the efforts of human traffickers. We're going to be talking about the Desantis ad because I'm not a fan of it. And we're going to be talking about hallucinogenic mushrooms that may be influencing our great politicians. So yeah, that'll be today. Today will probably be the last episode I do this week because it's going to turn into a busy one after, well, starting tomorrow, really. And yeah, I'll probably say that. This is probably the last episode I'll do this week, and then if I am able to, maybe I'll pop on one more time, but don't expect it. It will be a surprise, I guess, for me and for you if I do. So we're going to go over that stuff. If you want to follow along, you can at fearmeitsbre on Twitter, Instagram, and all the fun places. YouTube and Rumble as well. I forgot to upload yesterday's episode to Rumble because I pre-recorded it 2 days in advance. And then I just didn't upload it to Rumble for whatever reason. I was tired. It was late at night when I did it, so my brain was kind of just like, well, we're good. And we weren't. So I'll see if I can get that one uploaded as well as this one. Or if it doesn't really matter, I'll just upload this one. Was there anything else that I was going to say before we jumped into it? I feel like there was something that I needed to be like, oh, also this thing. But it's not coming to me, so we're just going to run off and forget about it. I'm going to start with the Donald Trump stuff. So we have a tweet from Anthony Cabassa, which I'm going to pull up so that you can see it too. There we are. Former President Trump says DOJ has notified him that he is the target of a January 6th grand jury investigation and states he will most likely be indicted and arrested for charges relating to January 6th riots. So I guess Trump truthed this, and I'm going to have to zoom that in quite a bit because my eyes are not happy with the small print. So what are you doing? Why is it zooming out, not in? Well, whatever. I'll figure it out. I can read this, I promise. Statement by Donald J. Trump, 45th President of the United States, says, wow, on Sunday night, while I was with my family, having just arrived from the Turning Point event in Florida, where I won the straw poll against all other Republican candidates with an 85.7, with all polls showing me leading in the Republican primary by very substantial numbers, picturing very substantial numbers. And he's just like, very substantial. I wouldn't say it, but that's what they're saying about me, or something like that. I don't know. Almost everyone predicting that I will be the Republican nominee for president, and as I am leading Democrat Joe Biden by polls by a lot, horrifying news for our that was bad. Horrifying news for our country was given to me by my attorneys. Deranged Jack Smith, the prosecutor with Joe Biden's DOJ, sent a letter, again it was Sunday night, stating that I am a target of the January 6th grand jury investigation and giving me a very short 4 days to report to the grand jury, which almost always means arrest and indictment. So now, Joe Biden's Attorney General, Merrick Garland, who I turned down for the United States Supreme Court, in retrospect, based on his corrupt and unethical actions, a very wise decision, together with Joe Biden's Department of Injustice, has effectively issued a third indictment and arrest of Joe Biden's number one political opponent, who is largely dominating him in the race for the presidency. Nothing like this has ever happened in our country before, or even close. They illegally spied on my campaign, attacked me with a totally fake dossier. Sorry, that's, like I said, tiny print for me. For some reason, I can't get it to zoom in. When I zoom in, it doesn't actually zoom in on the words, so I'm kind of like, what does that say down there? And for some reason, the laptop is further from me than it normally is. Don't know how I did that. Anyway, that was funded by Hillary Clinton's campaign, and the DNC impeached me twice. I won. They failed on the Mueller witch hunt, no collusion. They failed on the Russia hoax, the 51 intelligence agents fraud, the FBI Twitter files, the DOJ Facebook censorship, and every other scam imaginable. But on top of all that, they have now effectively indicted me 3 times. The DOJ staff runs all the DA's offices in Manhattan, with a probable fourth coming from Atlanta, where the DOJ are in strict and possibly illegal coordination with the district attorneys, whose record on murder and other violent crime is abysmal. This witch hunt is all about about election interference and a complete and total political weaponization of law enforcement. It is a very sad and dark period for our nation. So that was his statement on that. And a lot of people are likening it to something that another country likes to do when their political opponents rise up against the regime, which would be to arrest them and put them behind bars. And if anyone is still questioning what I'm talking about, it would be Russia. Putin is known for putting his political opponents behind bars and arresting them and not allowing them to challenge him. So it's wonderful. It's a wonderful look for Joe Biden that his administration sees the person like, yeah, Desantis is doing all right. Yeah, Vivek is doing, all right. But, Trump is obviously what they consider the big threat to Biden, and they want him out of the way because I don't know if they're convinced that they can defeat Desantis, Vivek, or any of those guys, but they at least know that Trump is a legitimate threat and challenge to them as they see it, so they're going to try and put him out of the way, putting it nicely. So that was interesting to me. I wanted to start with that just because it would be a quick little let's read through it, and then that's what I had to say about it. After that, I'm actually going to take a drink of water. We're going to talk about California. I was listening to Allie Beth Stuckey the other day, and she brought this up, and I figured in the spirit of Sound of Freedom and everything that's come from that, it's a very good topic to bring up and bring awareness to, where in California, did I zoom in too much? No, okay, we're good. So in California, there was a Senate Bill 14, SB14, which was supposed to, I'll read some of it to you. All right. SB14 is amended, grove serious felonies, human trafficking. Existing law defines the term serious felony and violent felony for various purposes, including, among others, enhancing the punishment for felonies pursuant to existing sentencing provisions, commonly known as a 3 strikes law. So that is in California, if you commit 3 felonies, you will go to jail or prison or what you will after that. This bill would include human trafficking of a minor within the definition of a serious felony for all purposes, including for the purpose of the 3 strikes law. So this bill would effectively make trafficking of a minor a felony, which apparently it isn't in the state of California already for some reason. That's very odd to me. By expanding the scope of enhancement, this bill would impose a state-mandated local program. The California Constitution requires the state reimburse local agencies and school districts for certain costs mandated by the state. Statutory provisions establish procedures for making that reimbursement. This bill would provide that no reimbursement is required by the act for a specific reason. And we're going to go down to the bill text. It's not that long of a bill, so I'm going to read it to you so that you can get the full spectrum of it, and I will also link it in the video description because I like to do that. I don't want you to just take my word for it or just take my good faith that I'm telling you the truth. I want you to see what I'm saying as well. So I'm actually gonna put the screen over as well so that you could, if you want to follow along, if you're just listening, that's fine too. So the people of the state of California do enact as follows. Section 1. The legislator finds and declares of the following. A. California consistently ranks number 1 in the nation in the number of human trafficking cases reported to the National Human Trafficking Hotline. B. The Attorney General notes that California is one of the largest sites for human trafficking in the United States and recognizes the serious nature of the crime. C. Human trafficking is among the world's fastest growing criminal enterprise and is estimated to be a 150 billion a year global industry. Did I read that right? Is that billion? I believe it is. D. Native American women and girls are victims of human trafficking at a much higher rate compared to the overall population, and that is true. That is 100% true. California has the 6th highest death rate of Indigenous women in urban cities. California was chosen to be the first pilot location for the United States Department of Justice Missing and Murdered Indigenous Persons Initiative. Section 2. Section 67.1 of the Penal Code is amended to read, notwithstanding subdivision of Section 667 for all offenses committed or after November 7th, 2012, but before January 1st, 2024, all references to existing statutes and subdivisions 2, inclusive of Section 667, are those statutes as they read November 7th, 2012, notwithstanding subdivision of Section 667 for all offenses committed on or after January 1st, all references to the existing statutes and subdivisions 2, inclusive of Section 667, are those statutes as they read on January 1st. Section 3 would be another amending of the Penal Code, notwithstanding Section 2 of Proposition 184 is adopted November 8th, 1994. The statewide general election for all offenses committed are after November 7th, 2012, but before January 1st, 2024, all references to existing statutes and sections. I don't think I'll read the rest of that logistic stuff because what I want to read is this part specifically. So this would be Section 4. Section 1192.7 of the Penal Code is amended to read: it is the intent of the legislator that the district attorney prosecute violent sex crimes under the statutes that provide sentencing under a 1 strike, 3 strikes, or a habitual sex offender statute instead of engaging in plea bargaining over those offenses. So plea bargaining in any case in which the indictment or information charges any serious felony, any felony in which is alleged that a firearm was personally used by the defendant, or any offense of driving while under the influence of alcohol, drugs, narcotics, or any other intoxication substance, or any combination thereof, is prohibited, unless there is insufficient evidence to prove people's cases, or testimony of a material witness cannot be attained, or a reduction of dismissal would not be result in a substantial change in sentence. Again, tiny print for some reason. If the indictment or information charges of the defendant with a violent sex crime, as listed in subdivision C of section 667.61, that could be prosecuted under sections 269 and 2887.7, subdivisions through of section blah, blah, blah. Plea bargaining is prohibited unless there is sufficient evidence to prove the people's case, or testimony material witness cannot be obtained, or reduction or dismissal would not result in substantial change in sentence. At the time of the presenting the argument to the court, the district attorney shall on the record why a sentence under one of those sections was not sought. So section C is probably the most important section to me, and I'm going to jump down to that. As used in the section, serious felony would mean any of these following. So what this bill would do is it would make child trafficking and human trafficking a felony in the state of California, or at least, if not a felony, a serious crime, but we prefer it to be a felony because we don't want people that do this just wandering around. We want them in prison. So a serious felony would mean any of the following: murder, involuntary manslaughter, mayhem, rape, sodomy by force, violence, duress, menace, threat of great bodily injury, fear of immediate, unlawful bodily injury or the victim of another person, oral copulation by force, etc., 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 lewd or lascivious act of a child under 14 years of age, any felony punishable by death or imprisonment in the state for life, any felony in which the defendant personally inflicts great bodily injury on a person other than an accomplice, or any felony in which the defendant personally uses a firearm, attempted murder, assault with the intent to commit rape or robbery, assault with a deadly weapon or instrument on a peace officer, assault by a life prisoner nominee, assault with deadly weapon by an inmate, arson, exploding. So basically it included into all of these things commission of rape or sexual penetration in concert with another person, in violation of section 264.1, continuous sexual abuse of a child in violation of section 288.5. So it really included all within this: human trafficking and coerced non-consensual sexual encounters, which would be rape. So this bill was rejected, right, in the vote, and it was rejected mostly by the Democrats within the Senate. So we're going to read the article about it too, because I think it's important. And this article is written by an LA Times writer who is very biased against the bill. And we're going to read their arguments as to why it was a good thing that this bill was rejected to make trafficking and child sex trafficking a felony or at least a serious crime. So, column: support pedophiles or protect children. A false question roils in California's legislator. Do you support protecting pedophiles or protecting kids? Seems like a bit of a no-brainer, but that's the level of debate, and the California legislature stooped this week as it brawled over a bill that would increase criminal penalties for sex trafficking of minors. Good. Why did you vote against it, people? By the logic that dominated the Capitol in recent days, I would have fallen into the camp that is allegedly protecting pedophiles. Yes, you are. Now, in case you need to hear it, I do not support pedophiles or sex traffickers. The fact that you have to say, I don't support them, but tells me that you are in support of them. But I also do not support new laws with old problems, and I don't support smashing discussion under the boot of conservative oversimplification. The bill in question is Senate Bill 14 by Republican Shannon Grove, who represents a swath of the Central Valley that stretches roughly from Fresno to Bakersfield and into the desert. This bill would make sex trafficking of a minor a serious felony. Why is that a bad thing? California designation that makes it eligible for a 3 strikes law, meaning 25 years to life when you hit that third qualifying crime. Sounds more than reasonable for selling a child for sex. It sounds good. But the devil is always in the details. As Grove's proposal raised 2 major concerns for those who have made criminal justice reform a priority, chief among them Assemblymember Reggie Jones Sawyer, who is an evil, evil man. Jones Sawyer runs the influential Public Safety Committee in the Assembly, and through the bill passed through the Senate unanimously, but with many changes to make it more narrow, he flagged it during a hearing this week, basically preventing it from moving forward. So the bill did pass, but this man said, no, we're not going to make child sex trafficking a felony or even a serious crime in California. Chaos ensued, with some of the bill's supporters accusing him and others who opposed it of protecting pedophiles. That cultural firebomb meant to stop all dissent. The leaders of the Freedom Angels, who came forward a few years ago with their opposition to vaccines, and the latter attempted recall of Governor Gavin Newsom, went on the attack. I don't know why that is relevant. Everybody should be against child sex trafficking and pedophilia, no matter what side of the political spectrum you're on. I don't care if you're Democrat, I don't care if you're Republican, I don't care if you're third party, I don't care if you give a crap about politics. You should all be in unanimous agreement that this is wrong. So why does that matter? As did numerous people who believe the QAnon-related conspiracy theories that Democrats and elites traffic children, it is proven and it is known that rich and elite people do traffic children. Why? They've got the means, they've got the money, they can pay for the prices that are being offered up for these children. The QAnon part is bullcrap. I don't know anybody who believes in that, and most people I talk to, even putting it out on Twitter as a poll, have no idea what it was till I said, hey, what's QAnon? And people were like, what? Nobody knew what that was. It was a small fringe group that claimed that whatever, Trump was going to save them, sex trafficking, blah, blah, blah. Nobody believes in that crap. And they're choosing that to try and debunk the fact that child trafficking and human trafficking in general is a very real problem. Again, just like with the Sound of Freedom. Threats, including death threats, and people hoping that legislators' children will be kidnapped and raped, have flooded the phones and emails of Jones Sawyer and all of the legislators who failed to vote in favor of the bill. Grove, who I spoke with on Thursday, was clear that she condones none of those tactics in any way, shape, or form. She points out that threatening a public official is a crime in California, and though her colleagues may disagree, she is all for turning those threats over to law enforcement for investigation. But that pressure has had its effect. After Republicans threatened to force a floor vote on the bill, Assembly Democrats, who have a new leader, Robert Reese of Hollister, which means they're still figuring out how to play nice with each other, sent it back to Jones Sawyer's committee to save face. This time, it passed in a tense 2-minute session in which 2 influential Democrats quickly exited after declining to vote, and one Republican threw his fist in the air in victory. What comes next is uncertain, but we need to look at the concerns Jones Sawyer and others raised, because having concerns, even if the Senate passed the bill, is legitimate and that kind of nuanced scrutiny we should expect from our elected officials. All right, so here's the issues they have against it. A big issue is the bill carries potential, slim but there, that the prosecutors could charge victims of sex trafficking with a serious felony, locking them up for decades. Sometimes, as I've written about before, women and children who are trafficked, subjected to horrible abuse and fear, cooperate with their traffickers. At times, this can include helping the trafficker control the victims. It is always a means of survival, and a coerced one at that. Grove acknowledged this and said, this is like slavery. The trafficker controls their every move. Sometimes, though, unfortunately, when you have been in that kind of situation, you become accustomed to it and you become part of it. It's not necessarily always that people were coerced into it. So you have, say, like Ghislaine Maxwell. She wasn't coerced into anything. She willingly was a partner to the he who shall not be named, Lord Voldemort, and his happy little island. Women have always been convicted of trafficking charges because of that cooperation. One thing, too, is these women sometimes do this willingly, right? Sometimes these women are not coerced, poor little victims. They're part of it. They're making money off of it. You can't just say, well, they might be a victim too, so we're not going to pursue anything. That's bullcrap. Jones Sawyer and others are worried the bill leaves open the possibility it continue to happen despite changes made to the bill in the Senate meant to address the problem. Okay, well, if they've changed the bill to address that problem, that, hey, this woman might not actually be a trafficker, she might be a trafficked person who's trying to survive, therefore she is working with the traffickers, and they've already amended the bill to account for that, what is your problem with it going through at this point? The fate of the victim is mostly left to the discretion of prosecutors, and most prosecutors have become more informed in recent years as California has switched from viewing sex trafficking victims as willing prostitutes, regardless of age, to people worth protecting. But you never know when that discretion will turn ugly. I think most sane judges will look at something and they'll be able to say, okay, yeah, that was definitely willing and that was coercion, who are actually applying justice. They're not just going to look at someone and say, lock them up when they have no reason. There are corrupt judges, yes, but I feel like most courts ideally are going to side against the actual trafficker. It just makes sense. Normally, with these tough on crime laws, they have a kind of a shotgun effect where they go out and arrest everybody, Joan Sawyer told me. They ensnare some innocent people. It is really important that we don't criminalize these victims. So in the heat of the moment, they might arrest everybody because they don't know who is the trafficker. They don't know who is what. They bring them in, they figure it out, and they let justice take its course with the people who actually are and the people who are the victims. You can't just take a chance on something and say, well, we don't know for sure if that woman is part of this, so we're not going to bring anyone in. That's not what you do. It is also a concern about creating more problems in the already problematic three-strike law. Many who support criminal justice reform would like to see the 1994 law, which came out in the middle of our failed war on drugs, taken off the books. Three strikes have been instrumental in the over-incarceration of Black and brown people. You knew it was going to lead into this. Black people make up 6% of California's population, but are about 30% of the state's prison population, 25% of the jail population, and 26% of the probation population, according to the 2021 report by the Committee on Revision of the Penal Code. And unfortunately, that has a lot to do with their home life. That has a lot to do with them being held back by, usually, unfortunately, the people who say they are trying to help them, the Democrats and the Democrat Party. Do I care what race a child sex trafficker is? No. Well, it really seems like you do if you're going to say we can't do this because we might accidentally arrest another Black person or another brown person or another Hispanic person or another whatever person. It seems like you do care. Many of the crimes that earn strikes for people have nothing to do with trafficking, and you seem pretty minor. Vanessa, okay, this doesn't have to do with trafficking. So why are you bringing it up? Vanessa Russell, the founding executive director of Love Never Fails, an advocacy and aid organization for survivors of trafficking, points out that stealing a purse while riding a bus is a strike-worthy offense. For that reason, she at first opposed the Senate bill, not wanting to combine those lesser crimes with trafficking. The three strikes law is flawed, absolutely, and that's why I had a problem with it, she told me. Listen, if you commit a felony, this is why the streets of San Francisco, the streets of LA are the way that they are. Because they're not prosecuting crimes. This is why today I saw a video of LA and it was Target or Rite Aid or one of these stores, just a regular store that you or me might go in to grab some things or groceries. Everything was behind glass. Milk, eggs, it wasn't just pharmaceuticals behind glass or the pharmacy stuff. Or makeup, which is more expensive. So sometimes they do that even in areas without high crime rates. This is the reason for that. They don't see that they're digging their own grave and throwing the dirt on themselves, back on themselves. Why can't we just create different language that says trafficking a minor, serve 80% of your time, period? Oh, wait, I missed a part. She supports the bill now because, like all of us, she wants children protected and feels some of her concerns have been addressed. But she says she wished the Senate Bill 14 had stayed away from three strikes and instead made sex trafficking a standalone offense that requires longer sentences with no chance of getting out early for things like good behavior or credits. So that I can see where it's like, why make it a three-strike law? So if you traffic kids 3 times, you're going to be, if that's how I'm reading that correctly, then yes, if you're caught once sex trafficking a minor, then yeah, you should be going away at least for life. The biggest reason the Senate Bill 14 deserves some more discussion is because it doesn't directly help the victims. California has made tremendous progress in recent years to center its response to human trafficking around stopping it before it starts and helping victims to find meaningful escapes that allow them to heal and move forward. That is not the job of these people. There are other resources to help the victims. The organization that was just mentioned. It is not the arresting officers' jobs to sit down and have a cup of tea and ask the victims, how do you feel about your life? It's been 6 months. The bill may keep victims safer by keeping pimps locked up, but there will always be more pimps. That is not a valid reason to not pass this bill. Oh, there will always be more pimps. Keep taking them down. Keep going after them. Keep making it harder for this thing to happen, and it will happen less. It's never going to fully go away. but you can curb it. You can bottleneck it. You can keep it from growing into a monster that you can't do anything about if you don't do crap like this and repeal bills like that, or not even pass bills like this. There will always be more pimps. The bill lacks California focus on centering victims and reducing trafficking by reducing the number of women and children available to be preyed upon and protecting those that have already been victimized. For example, it could address the fact that women remain incarcerated for crimes related to their trafficking because sometimes they are legitimately traffickers who want to be doing what they are doing. And that's where the justice system has to weed that out. How do we provide for a mechanism for those cases to be examined? Why do we not adequately fund programs that help women become housed and economically stable when they do escape? Why can't we ensure that the threat of prosecution will not be used to force victims to testify, as it too often is? It is good to have penalties for those that traffic children, but it's equally important to focus on the needs of the survivors. Maggie Krell told me. Krell is a prosecutor who specialized in human trafficking and put her share of pimps behind bars. She's running for an assembly seat, represent parts of Sacramento, and supports Senate Bill 14, but she also says focusing on helping victims is critical. Notice most of his sources, except for Reggie, what's his name, support this bill, but he's, or she, whoever wrote this, is still trying to tear it apart as if it's some bad thing, even though his sources are like, well, there were some problems with it, sure, but it's been amended to fix those problems, so now I am in support of it. Where is your case against it? You literally have no case against it. The bill that I will be pushing, if I'm successful in my race, will be bills centered around the needs of the survivors, not the defendants. She told me bills to provide investments in undeserved communities, bills to take away barriers to healthcare and housing of victims, bills to help the victims recover from trauma, which means she'll likely be joining legislators such as Joan Sawyer, who, as she puts it, wants to get monsters off the street while also getting to the root cause of human trafficking. Because yes, trafficking a minor should be a serious felony, but stopping human trafficking should also be a serious discussion, not one stifled by frenzy and intimidation. This bill is helping to stop human trafficking, you numbskull. Anita Chabria, whoever you are. Anita Chabria is a California columnist for the Los Angeles Times, based in Sacramento. Before joining the Times, she worked with Sacramento Bee as a member of its statewide investigation team and previously covered criminal justice and City Hall. Well, you're not a very bright individual, I will tell you that right now. Anyway, I think that is absolute bullcrap that they even stated in the article, as I said, that they fixed the problems that people had with it, changed their minds. Now they are in support of it. You literally just made a great case for this bill, Anita, or whatever your name was. So the fact, though, that it was a unanimously voted against by every Democrat in that room should tell you something about the Democrat Party. And I'm not saying that if you're a Democrat that you are some evil person, because I know good people who are, but I don't understand how you can justify voting into this party when they are for the dismemberment of children. They are not voting down bills about human trafficking in the names of equity, which is bull crap. They literally mention the indigenous women and children who are trafficked at an exceptionally high rate, and that is true. So what about them? If you care so much about Black and brown people not being harmed by things like trafficking, you go to mention them, but then you also are like, but we're not going to help them because, oh no, it would be racist. It's ridiculous, and I really think that people don't have their heads screwed on straight especially in California's Senate, but in politics in general. So that was an angering thing to read because I already read it. I pre-read it before I read it here, and both times I was just like, are you kidding me? This bill is helping to put a stop to trafficking. Why are you saying, well, we don't need to go after the traffickers and prosecute them because it could be perceived as racist, or, you know, if we arrest everyone, then everyone's going to go to jail. No, that's where the judicial system comes in and says, all right, we know that you for sure, you were selling children. You are very clearly a trafficker. This is your third offense. You've done this over and over and over again. You seem like you are a victim. We'll investigate it and make sure that we're not putting innocent people behind bars. That is an impartial justice system, which is what we are supposed to have in the United States of America. So the fact that they do not trust the justice system to do that adequately just shows that despite what they say, it is as corrupt as they are saying it is. Is that what they're saying here? I don't know. Anyway, we're going to move on from that heavy topic, and we're going to hop on over to the Desantis ad, which I'm not a fan of this, not going to lie. I don't really like Trump and I don't really like DeSantis, but I'm starting to think that if it came down to it, I'm not going to be the person that doesn't vote for Trump because, but I also would have a hard time voting. Why am I getting an ad for Glee? Anyway, I would have a hard time voting for DeSantis, and I would have to very much swallow my pride to vote for him if it came down to it. I would like to see Vivek Ramaswamy trump them both. No pun intended. But so people are saying that this ad's fine. It's a Politico thing is what I'm going to go into, because, oh, well, Trump's done this kind of thing before where Trump had first of all, Trump did not make this. It was not a political ad. It was something he thought was funny, right? Where he shared, retruthed, whatever you call his stupid social media site, something that somebody made to be funny, where it was an AI generated Twitter space of, what was it, like Stalin, Satan, Hitler. I don't know if I'll get in trouble for that. And DeSantis all having a Twitter space, and it was something somebody made as a joke where they're all having a conversation. So, and then after that, DeSantis went and took in, or his PR team took an ad and made pictures of Trump hugging Fauci, like AI generated. Whoa. And used it in their ad to say, like, oh, Trump embraced Fauci, which in a way he embraced Fauci in the sense of he allowed him to do what he shouldn't have and made it really, he shouldn't have allowed Fauci to have as much control and power as he did. So DeSantis took images like, let's see if I can find it. There's a very, okay, so here it is. This was from the DeSantis ad, and they took AI generated images and imposed real life Trump every time over them. Real life Trump, right? So they AI imaged these images of Trump and Fauci hugging within the ad. Some I think might be real images where it's like they're at a press conference or something like that, but these ones of them actually embracing are fake. And a lot of people, especially the older generation who watched this ad, said, I thought those images were real, because when it's a quick flash by in an ad, you're not going to look at it and say, okay, Trump's hair looks really airbrushed there. That is definitely not real, right? People aren't going to do that in a quick ad space. So in a way, it seems like they're being dishonest and like trashy, right? DeSantis is supposed to be the nice guy. Why is he being trashy? So he did that. I disagreed with that. I thought that was wrong of him. Again, the AI space, maybe it's trashy as well, but Trump did not create that. Trump didn't put that out. That's not part of his political team. It was somebody who made it because they thought it was funny, and Trump was like, heh, that's funny. So he shared it, right? It wasn't an ad used against him where they took fake images of DeSantis and put it under the words real life Trump, where it's like, this is not real life Trump, whereas some of it might be, like the two of them at a press conference. Trump may have hugged Fauci, I don't know, but these images are not real. They are falsified images on a statement that says real life Trump to smear and slander him. I hate that I'm like going off about this so much, because defending it kind of makes me like, because I don't like either guy. I'm just going to say it. I don't like either of them. However, I can call out bullcrap when bullcrap is due. So we're going to go, oops. So I just went out of that ad. So I'm going to go down here. Look, here's all my, oh, I forgot about that one. I was going to do that one. DeSantis ad. There it is. Now you can see where I have all my links saved that I have to go in and open up to do this. All right, back to the Politico thing. So DeSantis PAC uses AI-generated Trump voice in an ad attacking ex-president, and this is from Politico. A pro-Ron DeSantis super PAC uses artificial intelligence version of Donald Trump's voice in a new television ad attacking the former president. The ad, Never Back Down, charges Trump with attacking Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds as part of a larger pattern of disrespect he has shown to the first caucus state. But the audio that the spot uses is not actually from Trump, so this is where it gets weird. A person familiar with the ad confirmed Trump's voice was AI generated. Its content appears to be based off a post Trump made on his social media site, The Truth Social last week. The person said it will run station statewide, wow, in Iowa tomorrow, and that the ad buy was at least 1 million, a massive sum through one doable of the well-heeled super PAC. It was also be running via text message and on digital platforms. Political ads have used impersonations before, and the Trump-generated voice in the Never Back Down ad does not sound entirely natural, and we'll listen to it in a minute. Still, the spot highlights what could be the next frontier of campaign advertising, the use of AI-generated content to produce increasingly difficult to identify so-called deepfakes, and that is a huge problem. The blatant use of AI to fabricate President Trump's voice is a desperate attempt by Always Back Down and Jeff Rowe to deceive the American public because they know DeSanctimonious' campaign is on life support, said the Trump campaign senior advisor Chris Lechiva, referring to a top official with the pro-DeSantis super PAC. After losing big donors and slashing their staff, they have now outsourced their work to AI just like they would to outsource American jobs in China. Never Back Down has previously used AI to superimpose a fighter jet into a pro-DeSantis ad. So, the problem here is that when we start doing this kind of stuff, where does it breach ethics? How are we ever going to trust anything again? And the problem with it is maybe DeSantis didn't know about it. Maybe he didn't sign off on it, but he also didn't say, hey, guys, we're not going to do that because that's not right to do to somebody, right? So he doesn't care, or he's for it, which is a red flag to me. Can I play it in a bigger screen? But the fact that they took I thought they took actual truth. I hate that he calls them truths, but like basically tweets, right? That he took like tweets and put the exact wording in, but it sounds like it's based off them. It's not even the real tweets themselves. So let's see. Governor Kim. All right, let's play it and we'll watch it. And I'm going to turn myself down. Otherwise you will get a horrendous.
Governor Kim Reynolds is a conservative champion. She signed the heartbeat bill and stands up for Iowans every day. So why is Donald Trump attacking her?
I opened up the governor position for Kim Reynolds, in which she fell behind. I endorsed her, did big rallies, and she won. Now she wants to remain neutral. I don't invite her to events.
Trump should fight Democrats, not Republicans. What happened to Donald Trump? Never Back Down is responsible for the content of this advertising. Governor Kim Reynolds is a conservative.
Yeah, I would say that's a little below the belt. You can, if you listen and you know better, you can tell it's AI because it kind of sounds like Severus Snape from Harry Potter, where he's like, Snape has that kind of droll, long words that he kind of draws out. And sometimes Trump does that, but not to the extreme of Alan Rickman's Snape. But you can tell, okay, Trump kind of talks slowly and draws things out, but not to that extreme. So again, just like with the images, I know better, so I can hear that and say, that's fake. Why would you use a fake recording of Trump? That's almost like, is it slander? Is it considered slander, libel, whatever, saying that somebody said something when they didn't, even if they're just paraphrasing it, but something similar to what he did say? It's just, I don't know, it seems dirty. And I know that Trump has also been dirty toward DeSantis too, because that's politics. My big thing is you guys are on the same side here. So I get it. You don't go into this to lose, right? You do whatever it takes to get the other person down. But still, you guys are on the same side here. Stop taking cheap shots at each other and just focus on your own campaign and make yourself look like the better man, because right now neither of them look like the better man to me, because again, Trump has done stuff in his campaign, or his reps have put out ads and things that I'm like, I don't know about that one. That's a little weird. But I can't think of them off the top of my head to be like, oh yeah, well this one specifically was bad because, whereas with DeSantis, I can say, well, these two things that you might not have necessarily signed off on, but you're also not condoning when people give you criticism for it, kind of shows your character a little bit. So I don't know. And I think DeSantis is upset because Vivek Ramaswamy was pulling very close to him at one point. And I think he's kind of realizing that, oh, I might actually have a threat other than Trump, where what's his name? DeSantis's Wow. My brain just shut off. But anyway, DeSantis's MO has been, I got to take down Trump. And then Trump's thing is I got to make sure Meatball Ron doesn't surpass me. So it's been the two of them head and head. And now Vivek Ramaswamy's kind of coming up in between them and being like, I'm here too, guys. And it's like, I think DeSantis also might be like, oh crap, I got to fight even harder because, Vivek is a contender. He's great. I was listening to him in a Twitter space last night and the points he made, and I really think that he would be the best candidate. But the thing is, he's the little guy, so I don't know for sure that he would get enough in the primary. So if you're a Republican and you are voting in the primary, please don't waste your vote because I would like to vote for Vivek in 2024. Please make my decision much easier. Anyway, we're going to move on from that. I probably upset a lot of people by saying bad things about DeSantis, but I say bad things about Trump too. Again, I give criticism where criticism is due, and it's a huge red flag to me that some people are so full of vitriol toward Trump that they're like, well, he's just plain evil. I can't criticize DeSantis at all. And then on the flip side, you have people that are so full of vitriol toward DeSantis that they're like, I love Trump so much that I will not criticize him at all, and therefore DeSantis must be obliterated. And it's like, no, both camps are huge red flags to me because both of them have that cult mentality. I don't really like either man, but I'm not voting for a pastor. I'm not voting for a spiritual leader per se. I'm voting for the person who comes closest to my personal convictions in policies, right? So I had somebody on Twitter come at me the other day and be like, why would you vote for Vivek Ramaswamy? He's a Hindu and you're a Christian. And I was like, because the platforms that he's laid out when it comes to abortion, when it comes to the transgender issue, when it comes to transgender children issue, align more with my Christian values than the Democrats do, or even Trump's, or even DeSantis's. Some people are theorizing DeSantis is going to go moderate with abortion, whereas Vivek seems like he's pretty pro-life. Trump also aided in the overturning of Roe v. Wade by appointing the justices who overturned it. So all of them have done positive things in that sense, but Vivek seems to hold the viewpoint on it that would be closest to mine. It might not be exact, but I'm going to vote for the person that reflects the ideals and morals that I as a Christian follow over the ones that don't, right? And he just seems like a nice guy too. Like the more you listen to him, the more down to earth he is. He's doing interviews, Twitter spaces, podcasts with people that are not big, right? He's going to the little guy, right? He's showing up at these events, town halls, where Trump and DeSantis are kind of like, I don't need to do that. Trump mostly. Trump is very much like, he didn't go to the Turning Point. No, he went to the Turning Point one. He didn't go to the Blaze thing with Tucker Carlson because he doesn't seem to think that he needs to campaign himself or debate or do this or do that or do this, where I think that might be a failing on his part, especially because he does have contenders. People love Ron DeSantis. People love Vivek Ramaswamy. He's being underestimated. I think he's going to do a lot more than people think he is. And what the crap just popped up? Something in OBS. I really hope I'm recording. I'm recording. We'll see if I have sound and stuff. But anyway, I don't know where I was because I had to turn and look at that. But anyhow, I think I'll move on from that topic because it's just a lot that I don't really want to go into, and we're running pretty late. So I will go and we'll talk about the hallucinogenic mushrooms, and then we'll sign off and get out of here. So from the Daily Mail, hallucinogenic mushrooms may be to blame for U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, age 76, repeatedly bowing to China's vice premier after she ordered 4 portions at dinner. But the chef insists they were not psychedelic. The usually stately Yellen has come under fire from Republicans for breaking diplomatic protocol by bowing to her Chinese counterpart. It has now been suggested her behavior may have been the result of potentially hallucinogenic mushrooms consumed at a restaurant in Beijing. Hallucinogenic mushrooms, I'm going to pause this Biden thingy. Hallucinogenic mushrooms may be to blame for U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen's cringeworthy bows to China's vice premier after she ordered 4 portions at dinner 3 nights before their meeting, sources claim. Well, if they were, why, I would say 4 portions. Jiansho Qing mushrooms, which have psychedelic properties if they are not cooked thoroughly, formed part of a traditional dish Yellen polished off at Beijing restaurant on July 6th. So technically these mushrooms could have psychedelic properties if they're raw or not cooked all the way through. All right. The usually stately politician then came under fire from Republican opponents for bowing to her Chinese counterpart 3 days later on July 9th, so she may have been suffering some after effects. It has now been suggested her behavior may be the result of the mushrooms Yellen appeared to be enjoying so much, although the restaurant claims the mushrooms had been properly prepared. And of course they're going to claim that even if they weren't, because that looks really bad to be like, yeah, we got the visiting American politician high as crap. That's not a good look for your restaurant. Our staff said she loved the mushrooms so much, very much. She ordered 4 portions of Zhan Xiaoqing. It was an extremely magical day. A magical day. That doesn't at all sound like a hallucinogenic drug reference. The restaurant posted on Weibo, a popular Chinese social media site. So here's the video of her walking up and just bobbing, and her handler is like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And the fact that she like is like, woo, yeah, like it's kind of, it doesn't seem right. I don't know. I guess that's her while she was eating the mushrooms, the potentially hallucinogenic mushrooms during her trip to Beijing. It's her at the restaurant. Yellen's meal soon trended on the site and prompted discussions of the mushrooms' purported properties. I have a friend who mistakenly ate them and hallucinated for 3 days. Peter Mortimer, professor at the Kunming Institute of Botany in Yunnan, told CNN. Mortimer explained the mushroom was considered poisonous because it could be hallucinogenic. Scientists have not, as of yet, identified the compounds responsible for causing the hallucinations. It remains a bit of a mystery, and the most evidence is antecedent, he added. However, it is commonly understood that the mushroom loses any psychedelic effect if it is properly cooked. Zhan Xiaoqing, which looks very similar to porcini mushrooms, translates literally as sea hand blue, named for the way the mushroom's inner surface turns blue when you apply pressure to it. That's interesting. During the 2-day trip, Yellen had meetings with senior Chinese officials, including the Premier Li Qiang, the Deputy Finance Minister Lau Min, and Pan Gongsheng, the new Communist Party leader of China's central bank. After her repeated and effusive bows to He Lifeng, Yellen was criticized of showing weakness on behalf of America and lack of effective leverage. An American does not bow. It looks like she's been summoned to the principal's office, and that's exactly the optics the Chinese love, Bradley Blakeman, a senior White House staffer under Bush, told the New York Post at the time. Author Max Murray said, she did not realize bowing as an American official was a breach of protocol. They don't reciprocate. He even backs away to give her more space to bow kowtow. Awkward. There they are holding hands. Tensions have been rising between Washington and Beijing in recent months. A Chinese spy balloon. Yeah, we know all that. So, yeah. I don't know. Maybe they were undercooked. Maybe they weren't. Who's to say? But if she seemed a little loopy, there might be reasons for that. And my video has decided to lag like crazy. So I'm hoping that this is actually working, and I'm going to turn it off in a second and find out. Again, this is probably the only video I'm going to do today, or this week. I will try and be back again next week, and I hope everyone has a great afternoon. You can find me at fearmeitsbre on Twitter, Instagram, and all those places, and I hope you have a great afternoon and enjoy the rest of your week.